So the next speaker has no martial arts experience, unfortunately, but he has been instrumental inside one of the largest organizations in the Nordics in helping this organization adopt AI at scale. So he definitely has bruises and scars, but also he has medals and rosettes for some of the amazing things that they've been doing, both with Boost and across the organization. Please welcome up on stage Mathias Fraas from Nordea.
Thank you. Yeah, I sure have bruises and scars, and I don't think I have any medals or any flowers or anything. Looking forward to that. I'm going to start with two stories. The first is a few years back when I called our contact center. I needed to get some support for getting Swish to my kids. Swish is like the Swedish version of Vips, I guess. And I couldn't solve that on the open pages. So I called them and they said, hold on a second, I'm just going to ask Nova. Nova is our chatbot. My second story is I had a meeting with our head of group legal Sweden, I think about a year ago. And we were discussing new potential with Gen AI. And she said that, yeah, well, you know, can we have Nova with some super skills? And I said, you use Nova? Yeah. We closed down our internal legal desk that supports all the branches and replaced it with Nova. Didn't you know? I said, no. So these stories might not seem like exceptional to you guys, but to me, they actually gave me goosebumps because it was a sign to me that we had reached a level of adoption in the organization where our chatbot or virtual agent was just a part of the fabric, and the organization had embraced that. And it's been taking a long time, but I think that's where I always wanted us to get to. So this journey I'm not that close to our chatbot team and so on in the bank anymore, but I constantly stay in touch, so I know what's going on. My relationship with Boost actually started in 2016. I was approached by this handful of guys that just came back from Silicon Valley, and they just were on a mission to create this machine learning company. And I could see like in their eyes that they were like onto something. And that is part of the reason why I liked them, because they were different in that sense from all the other bigger players, right? And I was also impressed by the fact that they were going for the toughest customers first, the banks. And that told me that, these guys are serious, and I think we've had a great relationship ever since. We went live with our first instance in Norway on June 13, 2017. But anyway, so my name is Mathias Fraas. I lead the what we call the AI Hub in Nordea. We are basically about trying to help the organization to scale up different types of AI, so driving the capability build up and doing some of the innovation that's going on in the bank. And I'm really happy to be here today because my AI journey started then back in 16 or so, and I think that era is now all coming to an end a little bit, and a new era is starting. Maybe it started on November 13, 2022 when ChatGPT was released. That was at least there's before and after that, right? I do think that there's a new type of tooling coming in now. So it's nice to be here today to give a little bit of a retrospective, because a lot of things will be new now, but some of the things will also be the same. Was anyone around back in 16, 17 when the chatbots sort of entered the market? Very few people. One over there, some over there. Interesting. So maybe you could learn something then. Hopefully bring something back, because the thing was that it was so hyped. It was almost at the same level of hype that generative AI is now. All the banks were on stage talking about the chatbots. It was going to change the world. And I knew I had just come out of this other hype called RPA, if you remember. It was also going to change the world. And as you know, that after a few years, actually these are actually from back in that time, where all the different banks, including us, had our chatbots, and we were all proud of them. We were proud of them. But after actually a few years, the chatbots earned a bad reputation because they didn't deliver on that promise, right? So many companies hide them way down in the browser. And I think that the problem was not that the tech wasn't great. The tech was great. The problem wasn't that it was hard to do a pilot or even a platform installation. That was also pretty easy. And it was also pretty easy to tell the story in PowerPoints about, now we have a glorified FAQ, then we will have a better chatbot, and then we have a virtual agent, and then we will have financial assistant, and you all had these kind of roadmaps, but there was like no reality based in those roadmaps. So I think, and the reason why it failed, it was because it is about adoption. It's basically about people and mindset and adoption, and that is the same this time around than it was back then. And I think we've heard from the previous speakers already that adoption and people and keeping a human-centric approach will matter this time again, even though the technology is even stronger. So if we talk, I'm going to tell a little bit of a story that I usually put AI into context with. It's called the diamond and the shield and the heart. So these are 3 nuggets you could pick today, for example. So the diamond is about the value that you can draw out of these tools, right? And I think there are lots of diamonds now. I think we have about 250 use cases in our backlog in our bank now. So there's not a lack of opportunities to do things, and they span across all different functions now. And everybody wants to get to them. You get these questions: Can I download a small LLM on my desktop so I can get going, or can I get access to some endpoints to these LLMs so we can get cracking? All these kind of crazy questions that, to the previous speaker's point, that just integrating an LLM into the enterprise is not gonna solve the problem. And you who have played around with ChatGPT, it's fun. It's great to do Christmas cards or cards to your mom, but it's not gonna add value for an enterprise that much. So I think there's a lot about adoption still, and I found this formula to be quite useful. I used it for many years, and I think it's even more extreme now, because the algos and some of the data and tech has already been done for us as well. So it's even more about the adoption to get to the diamonds and to the value. And then we have the shield. So the shield is about the other side of this two-edged sword of AI, right? We have the potential, and then we have the risks. And I sat down actually with this lady called Kay Buttersfield, I think her name is. She used to be head of AI at the World Economic Forum and some other prestigious organizations. And she said that whatever you do when you develop your AI strategy, you need to put responsible AI at the core and expand from that. And I think that's also what I hear, Boost was talking about it. I think you need to build the way you think about AI around responsible AI. And responsible AI is compliance, of course, but it's also robustness, and it is about making sure that you are in line with your ethical values and your norms and code of conduct, etc. So that is truly important. I used to be a move fast and break things kind of guy back in 16. And because it was easy, we had to, and I think it could be useful to be like that in early stages, right? But if you want to scale stuff, I have learned you cannot be that kind of guy. I have some other guys, girls and boys, who do that in the early exploration phase, but I cannot be that kind of guy because then we will not get anywhere in terms of scale. So instead, you need to move smart and act responsibly. And I have learned, especially now lately in the age of AI, because everyone in our company that wants to get access to any of these AI tools, they have to go through training, they have to do risk assessments, they have to identify risks and identify mitigation actions, and it's very cumbersome the first time. But once you get past that, once you've done that for a few times, you're kind of starting to get it, and I think it's super, super important. So having clear guardrails and know what you're doing will make you faster. Otherwise, you will continuing to hit roadblocks. And when we talk about risk, we should not get caught up in these existential risks, like whether we are, AI, we are on the way to, highway to hell, or if we are on a stairway to heaven kind of thing, like, Max Tegmark, Mark Andreessen, that's nice to talk about over a glass of wine, on a Friday. But what we should talk about is the risk that we have here and now. So the bias, the hallucination, the data leakage, careless use of output of the AI and careless use of what you put in. And those are real risks. And I think that's what we should talk about. And that's what we spend time on. Because this is important. It's important to the extent that there's a new regulation coming up now, like the AI Act. And that's going to be something, I think. In that sense, it's good to be a bank because we use that sort of having models and risk tier models. But I think for across industries, it's going to be a tough one. Then we have the heart, and I think the heart is about people, and it's about passion. And right now, I found it very useful to have the most passionate innovators to work on the stuff, to kind of do the experimentation. Because I believe that what we need to do now is we really need to get started. It doesn't matter so much exactly what you do, but if you don't get started, you will not learn. You cannot learn this stuff by PowerPoint. There's no way. I've tried it. I'm not great at PowerPoint, as you can see, but even if you are great with PowerPoint, you will not get people. You need to put the tools in the hands of the people. And then they will learn. They will learn what the value might be, what this works for, what it doesn't work for. They will start to ask questions about this model. What is the cost? What is the performance? What is the risk? What kind of uses can I use this for? What can I not use it for? How can we bring it in? And all these kind of questions will come. But unless you start trying it out, you will not get anywhere. So that's, I think, a key thing that I have. And I think one other thing about the heart, like someone said, we're creating this for the people, right? And I totally agree with that. And where we want to get to is somewhere to my quotes in the beginning, right? You don't want to maximize AI for the sake of AI. You don't want to maximize individuals' IQ by using smart tools. What you want to get to, I think, is some kind of organizational intelligence. So where an organization brings in the tools and finds the use of it and can scale it and can remove the entire internal service desk because now they have this tool, or they can use a Nova as a colleague. That's what I really think everyone should try to get to. And I know I'm getting out of time, so I'm going to be quick now in my wrap-up. But one thing that one case study that I took part of when I did this AI training a few years back was, it was a medical case study example, where these radiologists were given images of lymph nodes cells, right? So they were saying, okay, here's a bunch of lymph nodes, and tell us if it contains cancer or not. And they gave it to the doctors, and then they gave the same sample to the AI to detect. And the results were that with the humans, the error rate was some around 3.5%, and with the AI, the error rate was about 7.5%. So the humans were better than the AI. But when they combined the two, when the humans used the AI, they were down to 0.5%. And I think that has stuck with me. I know it's a different thing altogether, but that has stuck to me in terms of thinking about that. It's the combination of the AI and the human that sort of will be the optimal and what we should strive for. So I will wrap up. I think the future is bright, but it's also unclear. Right now we have co-pilots, we have chatbots, we have knowledge agents. It's a lot of confusion for our dear companies and our colleagues. I think the best thing we can do is work with our use cases, and not like with not start with the co-pilots or whatever, but pick up some good use cases and see what fits this use case, and have that kind of approach as we go along. And I think AI will not replace humans, but humans with AI might replace humans without AI. So let's get started, and maker's gonna make. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias. Thank you. I do have one question for you, but I know that we are running a little bit on time, so yeah. I'm gonna keep that one question very brief. But I think first, the bit that you spoke about at the end, I would just want to tie into something. One of the things when we hire at Boost, I try and interview everyone, and the key thing that I look for is that passion. So it's really good to see it on there, or at least just show that you can be passionate about something. So I think that's a really key point. In similar way to the passion that you saw in Lars and Henry back in 2016, 2017. My one question, and you're not going to be able to answer it in a minute, so I'm going to challenge you to try and answer it in a minute, is when we look at risk and applying generative AI use cases inside organizations like a bank, it's less of a removal of all of the risk, but at what point are you happy with the risk that you have got? And with what you're working on and applying it inside a Boost environment, how do you think organizations should assess at what point are they comfortable with that level of risk? Because we're never going to remove it in its entirety.
Yeah, there are different levels on that question. I mean, are you comfortable with cloud? If you're not comfortable with cloud, it's going to be hard to do anything, right? So let's assume that you're comfortable with cloud and you have sort of the infrastructure in place. Then I would say it's more about, do we know what we are doing? Do we understand what we're actually doing here? Like, do we understand the use case collectively in the team or in the unit? Have we described it well? And have we defined the risk that we see? Mm-hmm. And do we have mitigation risks for those, mitigation actions for those risks? And do we collectively think that we have it under control? And if we collectively can discuss that and sign that off, I think then we should be fine. And of course there are different scales here, but I think that there's a lot of things you can do to mitigate risks.
Yep.
But you should make that analysis collectively, and then see where you end up.
Great. Please put your hands together, Matthias.
Thanks.
Thank you, Matthias.